Today we see the toughest part of law enforcement, making life and death decisions in literal split seconds. Hi everyone, welcome to today's badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I am your everyday host, John Correa.
I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from Denver, Colorado.
Today's video is brought to us by Mantis. The Mantis family of products is integral to ASP staff building handgun and carbine skills and are your most economical and fastest path to improvement in your skills too. Whether you choose the X10, the Laser Academy, the Blackbeard, or use them all in concert, they will help your practice be more effective, efficient, and fun. Go check them out, pick up a unit, and thank them for sponsoring today's video. Officers are on scene because they've received 911 calls of a domestic disturbance outside of a home. A bystander apparently called it in. There's a woman sitting down next to her wheelchair, has been knocked out of her wheelchair by her husband. They've been getting after each other. We have badge cam audio from two different badge cams. Let's listen in.
Yo. Is this him? Yo, Brandon.
What's up?
Brandon, don't.
No, pull it up.
Do not.
Let's go. Let's go.
Dirty, you start turning the car.
Let's go.
Listen to what I'm saying, Brandon. Listen to what I'm saying, Brandon.
Shots fired.
Don't pull your gun out on my husband, please.
Okay, do you need EMS?
I just need an ambulance.
Let me see your hands.
Brandon,
No, pull it up.
do not.
Stop.
Go. Shit.
Stop.
Let's go. Let's go.
Listen to what I'm saying.
Oh,
32 Baker, he's got a knife. Hey, Brandon, look at me. Stop. Hey, Brandon, move. Stop. Don't.
stop.
Don't. Shots fired.
They're
Starting an ambulance.
You can see next to the right rear wheel there that it is actually a marker that he had in his hand. So he didn't have an actual implement, a deadly force implement, but he sure sold it like it was. The shots that the officer shot at him proved to be fatal, and the injuries to his wife were minimal that he charged. They did end up taking her to the hospital. Again, our perp here did not make it from his injuries. News stories that I've linked in the description say that the officer's actions were determined to be justified. Oh man, when you see that baby in the background.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it in the lessons. Like we do often here, Mike, I think it's worth reiterating, any domestic call, officers have to really think, this is going to be the most dangerous call that I go on today, this week, this month. But I think the response to that, Mike, has to not be getting amped up to show up, but actually getting that kind of preternatural calm. So then that way you're ready for what comes.
We'd like to say calm is a superpower, and we're going to keep saying that because it's true. On the way to a call like this, especially if you're running code, your lights and sirens, and you're having to negotiate traffic, there's a lot going on, and you want to minimize your cognitive load on the way there to the extent that you can. Part of that is that combat breathing that John always talks about. Part of that is running through scenarios. I would do that. I'd be like, I'm envisioning what I might see and what I might do. Get a mental rep in if you can. But remaining calm is, because if you get there and you're not calm, right? If you get there and you're yelling and screaming and hooping and hollering and waving your arms, you're not helping the situation. You're escalating unnecessarily. So I think John's spot on here. Staying calm is only going to make things better. It never makes things worse.
Not only is calm a superpower, it's also contagious. Just like panic is contagious, calm is contagious. Mike talks about that combat breathing, or box breathing as we call it, which is in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And you can earnestly change your heart rate with that, and suppressing your heart rate lets you think a little bit better. So work on that on your way to your calls. Sometimes work on it when you don't have anything pressing emergency, because then when you do show up in that emergent time, then you've trained your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous systems to kind of respond even more and more effectually to it. So he comes out now, and I think it's interesting, he comes around the side so he doesn't get pinned between two vehicles. And I really like a lot of what I see here, Mike, a lot of good from a tactical perspective, because what I really do like is that our male officer here gives himself some space. He doesn't compress his distance. Instead, he kind of puts a hand out. Hey man, stay right there. You know, show me your hand. What's going on? And gives himself some discretionary time. And that space bought him time bought him options, the ability to talk to this guy that if he'd rushed in, he wouldn't have. And I think that was really good on his part.
And we've seen the video already, so we know that this doesn't work. The guy never got de-escalated. He never gave them a chance to even really start that process. However, what he's done here by not rushing up to the scene, because right, that temptation on law enforcement is to get in there and get close and control things really quickly. We don't know if he's armed or not, and I can't remember off the top of my head if they were told he was armed, but they really don't know. They haven't seen a weapon yet. So give yourself a moment, take a deep breath, and talk to him from a distance, and if the bad guy's going to come at you, he's going to come at you, but there's no reason for you to compress that time and distance, maintain a reactionary gap. I think both of them did a really good job of that. I like the fact that he got out of the car, started to walk towards, and realized, I'm kind of boxed in here. Let me stop, turn around, go back around my car where I have more room, and I have cover available if I need it.
You notice there he did have his firearm out for a minute. Then he decides to put it away. He's got a cover officer off to now his right, our right as well. And when the guy starts really selling the fact, hey man, I've got a knife in my hand, or whatever he's trying to do, he does a good job of selling it. Our officer gets his taser out. Now he's doing this kind of flip thing, trying to get the long range probes on that Taser 7 out. I don't know if it worked, but this is kind of sort of the best case scenario, in terms of, hey, I'm gonna try to pop this guy. I don't know if it didn't turn over to the long range probes for him, but I mean, he just missed. And I think using or trying the taser was a good thing here, but you got to recognize there's a reason we jokingly call it the Sex Panther of defensive tools, because 60% of the time, Mike, it works every time.
It's funny because I've said this before. I was never issued a taser when I was in law enforcement, but I saw a lot of taser deployments, and I don't know why, but when I was in the field, I saw probably 20, 25 taser deployments up close and in person. And almost every time it worked. And I don't know why. This has been several years. I was in the field really between about 2006 and about 2013 is when I was doing like street level work. So I was out with other regular cops, and it always seemed to work. I remember one time he had a bad cartridge that malfunctioned, and it was a sergeant with the sheriff's department. He pops it off, puts another one on, and went to town. So I'm not sure what's changed, but the taser is I don't love it, just from a spectator's perspective.
I like that he tried it. I like, hey, let's try to get him into custody and de-escalate this situation with non-lethal, because again, this guy's really selling the fact that he has a deadly weapon on him and he wants this to get going. He's drunk, apparently, is what some of the issues were, and angry, and just decided that day that he was not going to jail. And sometimes that's the way things go. Now, I also want to note here, we're going to talk about the female officer's actions from her perspective here in just a minute, Mike. But what I want to notice from this perspective is I have seen so many police officers firing the gun with one hand, talking on the radio while they're doing it, panic firing the gun. But here I see an officer who certainly appears to take her craft seriously, 2 hands on the gun, good shooting stance, good position, and using her sights. And so it's no wonder that she got effective hits.
Yeah, concur. These guys obviously have pretty good training. You can tell just because everything they did from the jump and on through the whole incident shows me that they train, that their training department takes training seriously. They'd always try to leave room. She's got 2 hands on the gun. This is usually where you see an officer, male or female, with their dominant hand on the gun and their other hand, even though she's got backup there, on her radio or his radio, screaming for backup. And, I'll beat this drum until I never see it again. Your backup's not going to get there in time. This is happening right now. I need to deal with it. It's clear to me she recognizes that fact. This is happening and no one's coming to save me. So I got to get both hands on the gun and get ready to do what I might have to do. And I think both of these officers did a stellar job from start to finish.
I really agree with you on that, Mike. I think, again, she realized I have to get hits here. And we're going to talk about why when we see it from her perspective in just a second. But recognizes her life that she really thinks is at risk. So officers, you got to take it seriously. Your training department may be serious, But if you're not serious, it's not going to help you in that moment. And if your training department is unserious, you still can be serious. It can be up to you in order to get yourself competent. Don't depend on your training department to do that for you. Now, I think she gets out here, and I want to talk about some of the stuff that I see from her, because as she gets out, what she sees from the get-go is she hears the woman say, "Don't draw a gun on my husband." Okay, ma'am, that's an interesting one. But now my husband is angrily digging into the car. And what we've seen again and again and again, Mike, is that he's not coming out of there with a bouquet of roses to say hi and I'm sorry.
Probably not. No. Listen, if you go on YouTube and Google traffic stops gone wrong, and in fully a third to half of them, there you will see something like this, right? Where the bad guy or girl is outside of their vehicle, they appear to be unarmed, and they lunge back in the car for something. Ask yourself, what could that possibly be? Could it be he's going for his ID? Could it be he's going for his insulin shot that he forgot to take because he's feeling like he's about to pass out from high blood sugar? Yeah, could be. Is it? Probably not. It's probably a weapon. In this case, it was. In this case, it was something he wanted to sell as a weapon and get them to believe he was armed. But, you know, this screen grab right here tells me this guy's going for something. I need to be prepared. And she reacted perfectly.
I also think I want to pay attention to the fact that we're able to see this in high definition, the entire screen. So we can look our eyes around, see on the left there's that mom and her baby. I don't know that the officer actually saw them at this point, though. Because remember, the way that the human eye works is that we have to focus on something to see it. Our foveal vision is what we actually get and can actually pay attention to. So I can't tell you if she saw that or not, especially in a high stress environment, what she focused on. I didn't get to read the internal affairs report or her investigative statements. So I don't know if she saw them yet or not. But she does see the fact here that once the guy comes out and her partner is then going to draw his firearm because the guy's threatening him like that, she kind of realizes here, Mike, that she is absolutely in a Taliban wedding ceremony here. And, you know, what we maybe used to call in the old country a Polish firing squad, but you can't really use that phrase anymore. But we can still make fun of the Taliban. So, you know, the Taliban wedding ceremony here with each other as the backstop is bad. And I think she recognizes that and moves offline. And that was pretty good decision making.
Listen, I've said this 1,000 times. Crossfire situations will occur. I just did a podcast with a retired officer from Anaheim and Newport Beach PD in Southern California. Great guy. Check that one out. It should be out this week or by this week. In that, he has a huge crossfire situation. He doesn't know what happened. It was dark. He was 50 yards away. There was a group of 5 officers on one side of this ravine. He's on the other, laid up with a long gun. Fortunately, no one, no good guys got shot. But when you find yourself in a crossfire situation, that's fine. Recognize it as quickly as possible and move to get out of it, unless there's no way for you to move laterally. Once you recognize it's there, okay, cool. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to find somewhere to move. Some people might criticize that she didn't get in between this woman and the bad guy. I think at this point, she's pretty sure this bad guy is either trying to kill us or going to try to kill us or injure us, or is going to be pretending to, whatever. And I think her moving where she did was fine. As far as the other bystanders go, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. Yeah, if that bystander is not moving around and flailing her arms, she's gonna be locked in on this bad guy, and if there's no movement from that woman or that small child, they're not gonna register. She's not gonna notice them, and it's something it's very hard to train out of existence. It's just something that is, and I think her positioning ended up being the best it could be.
I also think it's just a great reminder what's important now. So what was important a minute ago or even 5 seconds ago isn't what's important now. What's important now for her is to get out of the backstop of her partner in case this guy charges her partner and he has to defend his life. So she does that, and I actually really like that she strafes off and flanks away. She becomes the lethal force cover here, gets her gun out. She does get on the radio, hey man, I'm gonna need some help this way, because she has a moment to do that. And when she comes over this way, Mike, I really like her tactics here. She gets offline, gets herself a good backstop, and gets something between her and the perp. I mean, that's just pretty well tactically picture perfect.
Yeah, getting something between yourself and the bad guy, and this applies to regular citizens as well. If you're being assaulted, a physical barrier is a real thing. It is a defensive measure. There's an old video of a state trooper. I don't know what state it was from. An old video of a state trooper with a metal clipboard, and he's face to face with a bad guy who wants to shoot him, and the trooper just keeps moving the clipboard every time the guy moves the gun. I don't recommend this, by the way, right? But he's just moving this clipboard around, and the guy doesn't fire because he's got something in between him. So in this case, if we think he's armed with a knife, anything we can put in between us to slow him down or impede his progress towards me to try to assault me is good. In this case, looks like about an 01, 02 Toyota Camry, whatever, that'll work. And again, I still would imagine, I wish I could interview her. I'm willing to bet, even at this point, she's not aware of these people off to her left. She's not aware of that small child or that woman, until she turns to her left and starts to go that way. Then she's going to be like, oh no, there's a child and a woman here. And she does try to scoot him out of the way, but alas, it is the hood.
And that's exactly what she does here. You see her go around the car, and then she sees, oh no, wait a minute. As she comes around with a gun up, she sees a mom and a baby, and that instinct kicks in of get out of the way. And you know, Mike, in our pre-brief, you and I talked about this, and I think people sometimes in these kinds of neighborhoods, in a high violence neighborhood, they're so inured to violence. This is just, they've seen people draw guns on each other dozens to hundreds of times, and they kind of just don't even think about it. It's just another Tuesday. But you've got to fight that. Certainly, you know, the kind of normalcy bias of, oh, that's kind of weird. The cops are talking to that guy. No, they're pointing guns at him. Drop whatever's in your hands, grab your baby, and run, don't walk to a place behind cover.
I can promise you there's a lot of people that live in tough areas and high crime areas who are I know there's people that are very good people because I worked in those areas, and the vast majority of people were good people. And it's some very small percentage of that population that commits all the crime and victimizes everyone else. Listen, if that's you, if you're the kind of person who, when there's a pursuit going around the block, you grab your wife and kids and a bucket of popcorn and come out to the curb to watch it go by, to watch the parade with the pretty lights. Listen, especially if you've got a child, you've got to break that mindset that, oh, this is just Tuesday. There's cops pointing guns at people, whatever. Because this is, man, as close as I've seen to someone getting shot accidentally by the police. And these two need to thank their upright walking God that this woman trains hard and is a really good marksman, because this could have gone terribly wrong. When John sent me this video, we get to this part where it freezes and I'm like, oh no, because I don't know the outcome the first time I'm watching it. I'm like, please God, don't let either one of these two get hit. Listen, if you live in an area like this and this stuff happens all the time, doesn't matter. Get yourself and especially your children the heck out of there.
Gotta get them out of there. Now, as it's going to advance, I want you to pay attention to when the officer makes a decision. I'm going to talk to you about human performance stuff here for just a second and how the human body actually responds under violent stress. Because this guy's going to change to paying attention to our female officer and start charging her. Right here is 0.5 seconds before her first shot breaks. And this, somewhere between 0.6, anywhere 0.5 to 0.7 seconds before the shot breaks, is when the decision is made to fire. It takes a little bit of time to finish the decision, program the action, and then actually make the action happen. So this is where she decided to end this threat, that this guy's charging me with what I certainly believe is a knife, and there are bystanders around. He could be charging them as well. I have to shoot this guy. So when she makes the decision, Mike, this is a very good spot for her to be in. Good backstop, good, ability to stay out of danger. But of course, this guy's going to cover a lot of ground. So I want to make sure that we understand that when you said, well, she shouldn't have shot there, she didn't choose to shoot when he was in front of the baby. She chose to shoot before he got in front of the baby, and stuff actually takes time for human beings to do.
Yeah, cognitive overload is a thing. She's not suffering from it here, in my opinion. She's very level-headed. She's also several steps ahead. So sometimes we'll talk about walking up to a house or a building for a search warrant or a DV call or whatever. As you're approaching, looking around, hey, where's cover? You know, if someone comes out of the front door with a gun, where can I go? Where's there a tree or a fire hydrant even, or a mailbox? Right now, she's ahead of the game thinking, he's coming this way. If I let him go any further, these innocent people are going to be in my backstop. So I want to stop him now. And for those of you who want to put on your 2020 hindsight glasses and say, well, he only had a marker, she should have known. Listen, there's no way she could know. This whole thing, if you go back and watch it again, happened in seconds. The whole thing unfolded in less than a minute, and she's got to make a decision right now, because another thing that could happen possibly is if she doesn't act, he turns to his left instead of his right, and then we got a real problem on our hands.
Well, and what was his intent? His intent was for both of the officers to absolutely think that he was armed with a deadly weapon. He wasn't like trying to say, hey, I'm okay. This guy was absolutely interested in the officers thinking that he was armed with a deadly weapon and meaning them deadly harm. And they interpreted his intent in that manner, and him coming out of the car with something in his hands that they couldn't identify wasn't a deadly threat. A reasonable person would believe it was. Now, as her first shot breaks, it does take that half second, and I will note that her backstop just, right behind him from what we can see. Of course, remember, our perspective from the camera is not her perspective from her eyes, but right behind this guy is the mom. And so that means here, the only safe direction is the perp. You can't miss. If you miss, you are endangering this innocent bystander. And thank God she trained. Thank God she was good enough on that day. Thank God that she put the bullet where it belonged and didn't hurt an innocent. Dangerous, yes. But Mike, she was up to the task, and that means everything.
Yeah. Listen, we talk about mental reps. This is a great mental rep, right? This is something that will absolutely happen again multiple times to multiple officers in multiple areas. You will, some of you watching this are going to see something very similar to this. Let this be your impetus to get to the range. Let this be your impetus to train, to get out there and just get as good as you possibly can with your marksmanship, with your mental and spiritual fitness, right? Being sure your equipment works properly, because all these things now, all those things that you've done to prepare, all the mental reps, all the preparation and the training are now coming together right here. Boom. This is the moment of truth. Did I train hard enough? And I just don't want you wondering in that moment, am I good enough to make this shot? Did I chamber around? Am I legally justified in shooting right now? Can I or can't I? I want this to be almost automatic. I think for her, it was almost automatic. She was always a couple steps ahead of this guy, and realized I've got to act now. And it's unfortunate this person was shot and lost his life. However, this is the kind of cop I want patrolling my neighborhood.
I also want to note, second shot, what's the backstop? Now it's gone from the mom, a terrible backstop, to the baby, even worse. And now if she misses low and right, she misses into the mom. This is as high stakes as it gets. Now she got hits, and she got effective hits that ended up putting him down. I also want to note the time from her first shot to her second shot was right at 0.5 seconds. So she's not panic firing here. She's not, ripping shots off at the speed of necessity. She is putting shots where they belong at the speed of competence. That is indicative to me of somebody who is in their control of their faculties, is shooting her sights. And again, grip is the master, sight set the pace, trigger is the servant. This is literally like textbook. If you have to take a high risk shot, this is how you do it, because the consequences of not doing it this way are so incredibly high. And I just really want to give her props for that, Mike.
Yeah, 100%. As we're coming to the close of this video, I do want to say one thing for sure, and make sure if this officer was sent this video and is watching it right now, I know that it bothers you that you took the life of someone who, as it turns out, wasn't armed. I want you to take this video as notice that nationally recognized use of force expert, John Correa, and a 30-year law enforcement veteran and trainer, firearms instructor, defensive tactics instructor, that we both agree that what you did was 100% justified. And if you're another officer or deputy out there who's been through something like this, if someone is trying to make you believe they're armed and they're trying to make you believe that they're going to assault you and kill you, first of all, believe them when they do those actions. As I've said before, someone who wants to commit suicide by cop is going to continue doing what they're doing until you're forced to shoot them, up to and including hurting you. They're not in their right mind at that moment. So at the end of the day, officer, I think you did a fantastic job. Thank you for training hard. Thank you for doing those mental reps. Thank you for being a good shot. Thank you for making good decisions and covering everyone's asp.